Hi dear students, I am Dr. Mashur. Welcome to my class. Today I would like to discuss treatment of sludge. First we can see the sludge. Sludge is the viscous sediment that is collected at the bottom of various treatment units such as secondary settling tanks after trickling filter, activated sludge process, and in septic tanks or other secondary treatments in settling tank we can see these sludges, and these sludges are rich in organic matter and is also contain moisture and other organisms like bacteria, and based on the clarifier from the which is delivered out, the sludge is classified into primary sludges and secondary sludges. And primary sludges means sludges is derived from the primary settling tank, and this primary sludges comprise of inorganic solids, coarser organic solids, and secondary sludges is derived from the secondary settling tank, and which is rich in organic matter and biological solids like bacterial cells. And the high organic content of the sludge demands further treatment prior to its final disposal either into land or into the sea. That means when we are going to dispose these sludges, it must be treated. Otherwise, it will cause environmental issues, environmental nuisance. That's why it is essential to treat these sludges before it is disposed into the environment. And here we are going to see what are the process involved in the process involved in this for the treatment of sludge. And in this class we are going to discuss the process which is involved in the sludge treatment. That means we already told that this sludge should be treated before it is going to dispose into the environment, and we can see the process involved in the sludge treatment. And in the sludge treatment, there are different processes were used to treat this sludge, and sometimes we'll use all this process for the treatment of sludge, or sometimes we'll use one or two, the combination of one or two, this one of the two of this process to treat this sludge. And these are the main process that is used for the sludge treatment. We already told that sometimes we'll use all this process to treat a sludge from a source, or sometimes we'll use some of the combination of this process will be used for treating this sludge. The first process is a thickening, and the second process is the digestion, and other one process is the conditioning, and third one and the fourth one is a dewatering, and fifth one incineration. And after this all process is completed, then this sludge can be disposed into the environment, and we'll discuss each process in separately in detail. The first process in the sludge treatment, that is thickening. Thickening is the process of concentrating the solids present in the sludge and to reduce the volume of the sludge. And the sludge collected in the tank gets stratified into upper zone of clear liquid. That means that will get the sludge get into three layers. One is the upper zone which contain clear liquid, only fully water, and contain no solids, and the intermediate zone that will contain a zone of sedimentation where the solids settle, and we'll get a bottom thickening zone of dense sludges. And there are two type of thickening were used in this sludge treatment. That is, one is a gravity thickening. First one is the gravity thickening. In the gravity thickeners reduce its overall volume, thus enabling the easy handling of the sludge. That means using this gravity thickeners, we can reduce the overall volume of the sludge, and that's why we can easily handle these sludges. And the principle of gravity thickeners is that the gravity thickeners increase the specific gravity of the sludge and to decrease their volume. It is carried out, and this gravity thickening is carried out in a circular sedimentation tanks. And another one method used for the thickening is a dissolved air flotation method, and is used effectively to thicken the sludge by using air bubbles to allow the solid mass to float to the top. And that means in the dissolved air flotation method of thickening, will use air bubbles to allow the solid mass to float on the top. That's why we can remove the solids on the top of this sludge. And coagulants as alums and salts of iron are added to fasten the flotation. And this coagulants like alums and salts of iron, which is added to fasten this flotation. And this is the two method used for the thickening. One is the gravity thickening, and another was the dissolved air flotation thickening. And the second process in the sludge treatment is the sludge stabilization or sludge digestion. It is a process of decomposition of organic matter into relatively stable end products. In this sludge digestion process, the organic matter present in the sludge that will be converted into relatively stable end products. And this sludge digestion is done to reduce the BOD of the sludge considerably, and it readily dewater and easy to dry. And this digestion is will be helps to reduce number of pathogens present in the sludge, and is also done to recover the useful end products like methane. And it also used to reduce done to reduce the volume of sludge. And normally there will be two there are different type of sludge stabilization can be used. One is biological, chemical, or physical. That means sludge stabilization is the process of decomposition of organic material into stable end products, and this process is done to reduce the BOD, and is done to readily dewater and easy to dry the sludge, and it also to reduce the pathogens present in the sludge. And it also done to recover useful end products such as biogas like methane, and it also destabilization help to reduce the volume of sludge. And sludge stabilization can be biological or chemical or physical. And the biological stabilization process may be aerobic or anaerobic. Okay, the biological, that means the biological digestion process of sludge will be maybe aerobic or anaerobic. In the anaerobic digestion process, the organic matter is biologically converted to methane and carbon dioxide. And this process of anaerobic digestion of sludge is carried out in an airtight reactor. And the other one is the aerobic digestion, mainly restricted to treat wasted activated sludge. and mixture of activated sludge process and trickling filter and primary sludges. And it also aerobic digestion, mainly restricted to sludges from small plant using extended aeration. And this aerobic digestion, we know that aerobic digestion mainly aerobic digestion is done in the presence of oxygen. These are the biological method used to treat the sludge used for the sludge digestion. That is a biological method. In the aerobic and anaerobic method will be the, in the case of anaerobic method, this organic matter biologically converted into methane and carbon dioxide, and that anaerobic process is carried out in a airtight reactor. And aerobic digestion is mainly restricted to treat uh, the sludge is coming from the plants that are using extended aeration. This is about the biological stabilization of sludge. And in the stabilization of sludge, another method is the chemical digestion. And this in this chemical digestion, the sludge is treated with the high dose of chlorine or compounds of chlorine or other oxidizing agents as hydrogen peroxide and ozone, which deodorize the sludge, and microbial activity is slowed down using this chemical digestion. And sometimes lime also used to stabilize the sludge. These are the chemical digestion use of the sludge digestion. That means high dose of chlorine or chlorine compound were used, and other oxidizing agents like hydrogen peroxide, ozone were used to for the chemical digestion of this sludge digestion. And it also helps to slow down the activity of microbes. And sometimes lime were also used to stabilize the sludge. One of the another method is the physical method that is used for the sludge stabilization. In heat physical method is heating the sludge to a temperature of 140 to 240 degrees Celsius in a reaction vessel at a pressure of 1720 and 2760 kilonewton per square meter for a 15 to 40 minutes. And this heat coagulates the solids, break down the gel structure, and reduce their affinity for water. And the resulting sludge is sterilized and almost deodorized and easily dewatered on vacuum filters or filter pumps without the need of chemicals. That means the physical method, in this physical method, the sludge is heated in a temperature of 140 to 240 degrees Celsius with a high pressure for a 50 to 40 minutes. And this heat coagulates the solids and break down the gel structure and reduce the affinity to water. And the resulting sludge will be sterilized and it will, almost deodorized. In the other process, another process in the sludge treatment is the conditioning. Conditioning is a process by which the sludge solids are treated with the chemicals or various other means to prepare the sludge for the dewatering process. That means in the process of conditioning, sludge solids are treated with the chemicals or other various other methods to prepare the sludge for dewatering process. And there are many two methods were used to for the conditioning. First one is the physical conditioning. In physical conditioning, there is the Elutrition is the process. It is the washing of the sludge with a wash water to remove soluble inorganic and organic sludge compounds present in the sludge. And wash water of about 2 to 6 times the volume of sludge is required for the effective filtration. That means the physical condition in the physical conditioning, filtration is used to for the conditioning. It is a washing of the sludge with the wash water to remove soluble inorganic and organic sludge compounds, and wash water of about 2 to 6 times the volume of sludge is required for the filtration process. And another method of conditioning is that coagulants as chemical conditioning, that in that coagulants as free chloride, uh, uh, copper as ferrous sulfate, alums and lime are used for the conditioning of sludge. And salts of ions are the most common coagulant used for the sludge conditioning. They neutralize the electrostatic charge of the sludge solids and thereby causing the agglomeration and settling. That means in the chemical conditioning, coagulants like ferric chloride, ferrous sulfate, alums, and lime are used for the conditioning of the sludge. And the salts iron are the most common coagulant were used for the sludge conditioning. And this salts ions will be neutralize the electrostatic charge of the sludge solids, and thereby they'll cause the agglomeration and settling of this sludge solids. The other process in the sludge treatment is the dewatering. And after the retrieving useful gases and other byproducts from the sludge, the remaining sludge is then dewatered before is going to for the for final disposal. And for this dewatering process, the sludge drying bed is most common way to carry out this process, and it is extremely time consuming and make take weeks to complete this process. Okay, the for the dewatering process, the common way to carry out this dewatering, that is the sludge drying beds. But the limitation of this process is that it's extremely time consuming process, and that it will take weeks to complete this process. And to quicken this dewatering process, waste management plants are employing solid liquid separation devices to carry out this process. Okay, we are told that self drying bed is will take extremely time consuming process. That's why to quicken this dewatering process, the waste management plants also were also employing solid liquid separation devices to carry out this dewatering process. And centrifugation is a is slowly becoming one of the most preferred method of dewatering of sludge. Centrifugation is slowly becoming one of the most preferred method of dewatering sludge. And apart from this centrifugation, other methods were also used, which include rotary drum vacuum filters and the belt filters, filter press were also used in the dewatering process. That means uh, in the dewatering process, after the retrieving useful gases and byproducts from the sludge, and it will be the water of this sludge will be removed before it is going for the final disposal. And for this dewatering process, most commonly used method is the sludge drying bed. But the problem of this sludge drying process is that it is extremely time consuming and it take more the weeks for the process. And to quicken this process, the waste management plans sometimes you are using solid liquid separation devices to carry out this process. And the centrifugation is a process method is slowly becoming one of the most preferred method for dewatering the sludge. Apart from this centrifugation, some of other alternatives were also used like rotary drum vacuum filters and the belt filter press were also used. This is about the dewatering process. And another one process is the incineration. In the sludge treatment, there's another one of the incineration. When the sludge is dense and it contains more than 30% solids. Okay. When the sludge is dense and that's contain more than 30% of solids. And in that 30% of solid which more than half are volatile nature, then the sludge can be incinerated. Okay. When the sludge is dense and that contain more than 30% solids, of which this 30% more than half of this solid is volatile in nature, then the sludge can be incinerated. And for the incineration process is require an auxiliary fuel. That's why it is a costly process and it is adapted to treat industrial sludges which cannot be otherwise treated. That means in all time this incineration process is not used. Sometime this incineration process is will be essential to remove some components present in the sludge. That time we will use this incineration process to treat the sludge. So these are the process which is used in the sludge treatment. And first is the first process thickening, and second one is the digestion, and third one is the conditioning, and fourth one is the dewatering, and fifth one is the incineration. We already told that for the sludge treatment sometime we will use all this process for the treatment of sludge, or sometime we'll use single method process only, sometime we'll use a combination of one or two or three of this process. And after the completion of this all sludge treatment, will dispose this sludge into environment. Once the sludge has been effectively dewatered or after completely treated, it can be buried underground in a sanitary landfill, or it can be used as a fertilizer and depend on the chemical combustion. Okay. This after the complete treatment on dewatering process, after the complete treatment of this sludge, this sludge can be buried underground in a sanitary landfill, or it can be used as a fertilizer. And the mode of disposal is mainly depends on the chemical combustion. That means the disposal of this sludge will be depends on the chemical combustion. From that depend by considering this chemical combustion, will decide whether it have to go for buried underground in a sanitary landfill, or it can be used as a fertilizer. And in case where the sludge is too toxic to be reused or buried, you can simply incinerate the sludge and convert into ash. Okay. Once the sludge have been effectively dewatered or treated, it can be buried underground in a sanitary landfill, or it can be used as a fertilizer. And this disposal is depends on the chemical combustion. And sometimes this sludge will be highly toxic or to be reused or buried, and that means Sometimes this sludge final sludge treated sludge will be toxic, and that may cause some problems to environment, chance to cause environment problem to environment. That time we will simply incinerate this sludge and convert the sludge into ash. This about the treatment of sludge. I hope you understood this class. Thank you for the listening.